Why doesn't the delegate then suggest amendments that would make this clause more specific? Or is the delegate of Slovenia suggesting that China is not committed towards development of human rights in the world and Tibet?
If any of the delegates in this forum is willing to send an amendment, and if they agree with me, please do so. You will have my support. The delegate would like to yield the floor to China.
That is in order. Delegate of China, you now have the floor.
To explain himself.
Basically, the resolution shows that China respects all its people equally and is determined to be a positive member in the international community.
Given the negative publicity about China and its respect of rights the rights of the people, especially pertaining to the freedom of speech, of press, of assembly, of association, of procession and demonstration, would like to ask, what are the guarantees on the part of China that it will conform to the operative clauses in this resolution to an internationally accepted standard and not just leave them free to interpret it as they please, assuming that they will?
Why would China even agree to such a thing, and why would it even be reasonable?
Now, this delegate is not insulting the credibility of the Chinese government. This delegate thinks highly of the Chinese government in the way they have run their country and their economy. But there are certain things about the Chinese government which this delegate finds rather disturbing in terms of the amount of negative publicity that has come out. And these are concerns that have to be met, especially since these are concerns that have been raised by the citizens of our respective countries back at home. And so this delegate is duty-bound to ensure that these issues are raised in this council. And that is why this delegate proposes these things that they be taken out of China.
In Clause 11, it urges China to resume talks with representatives of Tibet. It mentioned nothing, however, of the possible talks between the Dalai Lama, the political leader actually regarded by the Tibetan people, and China. Zambia advocates this resolution most strongly and urges all delegates to vote for this resolution. However, Zambia also advocates for peace within Tibet, and until possible negotiations occurs, Zambia fears conflicts could resume even with this resolution in place.
Is the delegate of Zambia aware that the Dalai Lama is in exile, does not have any power over current events, and is more of a spiritual leader, not a political leader?
The delegate is aware, but the delegate also wishes to point out that the Tibetan people still widely regard the Dalai Lama as the political leader.
Thank the delegate of Zambia for coming up with an amendment. However, this delegate will not accept this amendment, for it says, and or possible talks with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama has been in exile in China and has no idea what is going on. He only hears from his people, and therefore his word should not be trusted. And therefore, the Dalai Lama, as the delegate of South Africa has pointed out, has no power, and he has no primary knowledge of what is going on in his country, and therefore this delegate will not accept this amendment and will urge all of the member nations to refute or go against this amendment.
Does the delegate not believe that by not accepting the Dalai Lama that the Tibetans won't agree to the resolution?
From what this delegate has understood, the Dalai Lama is a spiritual leader, and currently he has no knowledge of how to run a country. And therefore, in order for the Tibetans to gain their human rights, it would be better to have someone other than the Dalai Lama to talk about.
Can the delegate please refer to his sources on the counts that the Dalai Lama has no idea of how to run the country, and also the delegate has no idea what's happening in his country? Not country, but region.
This delegate is a history student, and from what this delegate understands, if an individual is not living in the area where there is a crisis and only receives his news through other sources, he is a secondary source. And secondary sources should not be trusted. Only primary sources should be trusted. And the primary sources are the Tibetans who are currently living in China going through such horrible times.
The delegate of Sri Lanka would like to ask the delegate of Slovenia that if he is aware that these secondary sources are also Buddhist followers.
Yes, and therefore it would be better for the Buddhist followers to talk to the Chinese government instead, because they are personally afflicted, whereas the cell phone.
House, please come to order.
Should the delegate continue?
Yes, delegate of Slovenia, please continue to answer the point of information.
Could the chair please ask the delegate to repeat the question?
That is in order. Delegate of Sri Lanka, could you please repeat your point of information?
The delegate of Sri Lanka would like to ask the delegate of Slovenia if he's aware that these secondary, the people that the Dalai Lama is getting from his information from are also Buddhist followers, therefore they have the same point of view.
The pain being inflicted to the Buddhist followers and the Dalai Lama are completely different. The Dalai Lama has been in exile for a long, long time, whereas the Buddhist followers, they have been personally persecuted in the country. And the Dalai Lama, outside China, he cannot be persecuted. He's only in exile, whereas the Buddhist monks are being physically persecuted. And therefore, this delegate would rather have anyone except the Dalai Lama to have possible talks with the Chinese government. Because also, the Chinese government would not accept the Dalai Lama. This is what the delegate feels and thinks.